Hello! After episode 1 with the Bears, what's next? Well, episode 2 with Commanders. Welcome to Road to Superbowl, season 2, episode 2, Washington Commanders. For what you guys have not seen, number 1 episode with Bears, first I recommend, I kind of went off track, talked about Bears a lot, because there's a lot to talk about. What is new to season 2? We will be talking about draft, then we go position by position, what this team is looking like for this new season. We talk how does that project towards their future success. You will see their grades through PFF and some important stats, new graphics, and in the end you will hear me talking about what this team floor and upside is for the season, what is kind of their goal or their goal should be. And also we will be talking a bit about the quality of the coordinators and head coach that they have. So we start with Washington Commanders, and I would say that the theme for this team is speed and running. So speed in terms of the quickness of the rebuild that they have done in terms of getting rid of like 60% of the roster within like 6 months of a new GM is really kind of unprecedented. And also speed in terms of who they've chosen as their future quarterback. So with no further ado, let's start Washington Commanders, and we start with their draft. And their draft started with number 2 pick. That's why they are number 2 team here, because we go in draft order. And it started with Jaden Daniels. For new guys to the series, for draft players, you can see how do I rank their ability in terms of he is a decent starter in my opinion, what their position is, obviously the team and name, picture. Here you see him throwing a pitch at National Stadium round, which was the pick he was drafted overall. My ranking, kind of general ranking, college he came from, and his 40-yard dash. So let's start with Jaden Daniels, because that's a conversation we need to have. I feel like there is 2 groups out there. One is saying, great pick by the Commanders. This is the guy for the future. There's a lot of upside. This is their future guy. That's one group. And then this other group is, well, it might be, but you should have chosen Drake May because he's a better prospect. And I'm leaning more towards that second group for sure. I think Drake May is a better prospect. And in terms of like road to Super Bowl upside, I would definitely pick him. But why this is not like much worse grade, because I can't give them, spoiler alert, Atlanta, is when I was like kind of reflecting on the process and what Commanders are and were in the past, I'm like, they need hope. This franchise needs a freaking hope. They need grown up in the room. They need a guy that you can go and stand behind. And I think Jaden Daniels is that. I think he will provide you with a lot of interesting plays. You know, he's gonna show them up on tape, and he works hard. He was not supposed to be number 2 pick. Like 2 years ago, like there was no. You can see if he's gonna get drafted, it's gonna be like 3rd, 4th, or 5th round, maybe even go undrafted. And he just worked his ass off. He was voted a captain. There is shit ton of praise about his work ethic, and combine that with like, I would not say elite upside, but good enough upside for a long-term future NFL quarterback. I do understand this pick. Still, in terms of who provides you the better chance to win a Super Bowl eventually, I think Drake May is the guy over Jaden Daniels. That's where I think this is not great pick, but I don't hate it as much as I hated it during draft night, because I kind of reflected that process. So with Jaden, I will talk more about him when we talk about this quarterback group. Then Johnny Jerzan Newton. Here my grade A+ is a bit higher than the general public has, I think, and I would say the general public is even lower given his second operation on the leg that was not the one that we knew that he is hurt. I still have an A plus, and it kind of remains there because I would say that for where you are as Commanders, you don't need him right now. You like if he doesn't play this season or half of the season, like what? It doesn't really matter. Like you are not winning Super Bowl this year. Spoiler alert. But taking a player with upside of Johnny Newton, because his upside is an elite player. Like it's there. It's there. If he stays healthy, that's the upside. So taking a swing on such a highly talented player, kind of falling into the lap, there was, I think, pre-injury concerns. He was like borderline top 10 prospect. Then when injury came, it was like mid to late first round. You end up getting him like early second round. I think you just absolutely, I love that you take the swing. And then Mike Sanderson, again, pick I'm really high on. With him, I feel like you are getting really nice plug into place player that will start right now into the group that is really your weakness. Though not necessarily for a position of weakness, because kind of slot corner was not the biggest need. But still, I feel like definitely a good player. Maybe even good backup is way too low on him, because I really feel like he will step into league and he will play very well year one. So kind of mixed bag with the first 2 days or first 3 picks. Then we continue. We're still on second day with Ben Sino. You will hear me talk about him quite nicely when we go to tight end room. Yet I don't like this pick. I think it's too early for him. I like him in this room. I do understand why they wanted him, but to me he was late third, early fourth, somewhere around 100 pick type of player, not mid second round. Especially in this class, I just feel like this is an overdraft. I do understand why they like him. We will talk about it with tight end room, but yeah, not a huge fan. Kind of similar to Brandon Coleman. We talked about it with Kieran Amedegichi. There was a lot of linemen kind of coming off the board right around this time when Brandon Coleman was drafted. And when that starts to happen and you know you want to invest in your offensive lineman, you sometimes kind of panic and like, yeah, maybe we are not getting value here, but at least we are addressing the position. And I kind of feel like that's what happened with Brandon Coleman. It's not the dreadful pick, but it's definitely a reach, in my opinion. And I would say the same absolutely with Luke McCaffrey. Obviously, Luke McCaffrey, brother of Christian, great, like family tree, but fifth rounder in my opinion, not the third. Like beside, like you know that you hope the CMC genes runs very well in him, like in terms of the family. The other fact is like he used to play quarterback, so he's kind of new to the position. So you can be like, okay, there's an upside because of that. I mean, like I said, I'm not against taking a swing, because that what Luke McCaffrey kind of is to me. Like to me, he's kind of boom or bust prospect, but I would say the bust is much more likely. And because of the name and because of draft investment, I feel they could persuade themselves to play him much more, even though if he's gonna be bad. So not a huge fan. So these 3 picks, not great in my eyes. And then we go to kind of later picks. Nothing really stands out to me. Like grade B, though it's not like really how you should be like grading mathematically. I'm like, A is really good, B is adequate, like normal. I would say that's where everything is kind of aligned. Well, position of need, yes, kind of good round. Like, it's not value, but it's not loss. C is either overdrafted or two position that I just don't understand, or maybe I would say there was a better player for that position that you passed on. And then D, I tried not to use very much. That's where I'm like, I really don't like this pick, and I hoped to avoid an E because I really didn't want to bash on someone that super hard. So that's essentially my grades. I also adjusted the public grades towards that. So that's pretty much the draft. Not a huge fan because I feel like the best asset you used on the wrong guy, though, like I said, I do understand it. And with the rest of the draft, I only was a huge fan of Johnny Newton draft and kind of okay, very, very well in peace with Mike Sanders still. So overall, one of my least favorite drafts, which is, I would say, kind of contrary to where a lot of people that I've heard talk about Commanders are. So we will see who kind of reaps the reward of being right, quote unquote. But this is just my opinion. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's just it. So let's go and let's check the offensive side of the football for the Commanders. And we start with the offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury. Again, who, for those who haven't watched the first episode, here's his title, my grade, his name, weaponry. Overall, we take running backs, quarterback, tight ends, wide receivers, kind of mesh them combined to one grade, and then divide it to pass and run. Then O-line, we do the same for their pass blocking and run blocking. So in terms of weaponry, I think it's overall a D group, with passing being definitely worst part of this offense, while running actually being kind of middle of the pack for the league. In terms of O-line, we are kind of similar rank, again, a D. We will go player by player why I arrived towards this rank. Slightly better in terms of run blocking. But let's talk about Cliff a little bit. So his stint with Arizona was, let's say, not good. It looked promising at some points, but then he just went bit off track with the way they drafted, with the way the players that they tried to bring, kind of, if you are light as a feather and don't have any physicality, yeah, we kind of want you. At the end of the day, it just didn't work out in Arizona. Cliff went to college back and did nice job, but not something exceptional. But I'm still not, I have the same grade on him as I do have on Shane Waldron, but I do like this hire more. Just like Shane Waldron, I don't think there is really any head coaching opportunity, even if he looks very good. And the second part is, I feel like he is much more equipped to develop Jaden Daniels than Shane Waldron is to develop Caleb Williams. It feels like the match is much better to me with Cliff and Jaden. So despite having him kind of poorly graded based on what we've seen last time when he was in the NFL, I do expect him to end up with better grade at the end of the season, and I am actually quite okay with this hire and interested to see if he can elevate the dual threat quarterback just like he kind of did with Kyler Murray. His usage of Kyler Murray was not a problem with the Cardinals. It was kind of everything else. So let's check the players that he is going to work with. And we are going to start with the quarterback room. Jaden Daniels and Marcus Mariota. With Marcus, I don't think there's much to talk about. He is career backup. He's grown up in the room. He knows what he is. I think he's happy to get another quite nice paycheck. He will be a mentor for Jaden Daniels. If he has to start, Jaden Daniels is either absolutely garbage, which is a problem, or he's hurt. Yeah, I'm kind of damned to do and damned to don't, like letting cats here, because either they will scratch on doors or they will just make mess here. Well, tough luck. I hope you guys don't mind. If it's gonna be bad, I will try to somehow adjust that. I'm not sure how, but that's living with house animals, I guess. Okay, let's go to Jaden Daniels. What are his pros? What are his cons? So let's start with positive. Work ethic. Absolutely something that he's praised on, and I trust him. Like, I trust that he wants to work hard. So that's where I'm like, I don't see the elite traits for him to be really elite or even amazing starter in the league. But I won't be surprised if he carves himself a role as kind of middle of the pack type QB year in, year out. He's just the middle 16, 14 to 18. I would say like Kirk Cousins type of quality quarterback that, you don't win games because of. He's not the guy that you are winning because of, but with the right cast around, you can win with. I feel like that's kind of where his ceiling is. Also, his running ability. Like, he has legs, man. Like, he is already one of the best mobile threat in the league. And he hasn't played a snap there. But I'm comfortable to say that. Also, he kind of throws nice deep ball. And then goes the cons. Like, his deep ball is nice, yet there is not an elite arm behind it. So, like, it's not gonna be 70-yard bomb, it's gonna be 55. It's gonna be nice, it's gonna be on the spot, but perhaps that spot is 10 yards shorter than you would hoped. Also, with his running, there definitely comes a worry, like on two cases. First one, or actually three. First one, he is not really good thrower when he is on the move. Like, first of all, he doesn't look to throw that much when he's moving. Second of all, if he does, he doesn't do it perfectly. Then he cannot freaking slide. Like, dude needs to learn that. If he doesn't have a future in the NFL, in my opinion, because his body is just gonna give up eventually. Now he takes hits way too unnecessary. He needs to get better than that. And third is, because of his legs, he kind of abandons clean pockets way too often for my liking. So, because he knows I can make play with my legs, he tries to make plays with his legs, even though it would be better to sit in the pocket and just throw a nice 10 to 12 yard completion. So that's some pros, that's some cons for him. Also, one, I would say, kind of funny stat, he's 24. He's just like a year younger than Trevor Lawrence, who already was given like a second contract in the NFL. So that's again one of the things that kind of makes me a bit worried. How much of the upside have we seen? Like, compared to guys that are 2021 and we just don't have that much of a tape. But I think for this season, he's going to provide them better player than Drake Maywood. And I would kind of say that's what they need to give the franchise a hope. There is a guy that's gonna work hard, that's gonna play hard, and just hopefully does not get injured. Because I think that's unfortunately the real possibility with him. Then go to running backs. And this room, I think, has one wildcard, and then one wildcard is Austin Eckler, who had his worst year as a pro. And there are two school of thoughts on him. One saying he is slowing down he didn't recover from injuries very well, and he just lost step. The second one is saying, well, he was injured twice last year. He was kind of rushing to get back because he was in a contract year. And when he was like finally healthy, they were playing really great rushing defenses. So he didn't have much to succeed for. And also Justin Herbert being sometimes out of lineup doesn't help you run because obviously the opposing teams won't respect Easton Stick that much. So they will focus more on a run game. Where am I with Austin Ekeler? I would say I'm still with, I believe he can do it. And I kind of hope he will, because to me he is really likable player and I really wish him well. So when you see like the personal things, they are mostly positive, I would say, and we try to keep that. So I wish him the best. I kind of let myself be swung by the arguments why he was not good last year, and I trust that he's going to be very serviceable starter for them. Then you have Brian Robinson, who should be, I would say, more of a runner than Austin Ekeler. When Austin, it's going to definitely be more threat with his hands as well, but Brian can do that as well. So it's going to be interesting if they are going to go and approach like one drive you, or they will kind of mix and match them. Definitely one group that is worth watching from the start to understand how they want to utilize them. Nothing bad to say about Brian Robinson. He is what he is. Can he step it up a level to impactful starter? Okay, maybe, probably nothing else. But good running back, nothing bad to say. Chris Rodriguez, kind of nice backup, has similar tools to Brian Robinson, but just not as good of a player. So nicely orchestrated room, I would say. Kind of, definitely not a strength of a team that wants to like win division, but for what the Commanders are, this is nice room. Then we go to wide receivers. Then we start with scary Terry McLaurin. I talked about him a bit when I was addressing DJ Moore for the Bears. Terry is kind of similar in terms of, I think he is really insane, but the list of QBs that he had to kind of face, because it's not like they were really cooperating with him, is like ridiculously bad. So like Tyler Heineke, Carson Wentz, not Eagles Carson Wentz, Sam Howell last year. Like he also does not have a great history of quarterbacks. Unfortunately with Jaden Daniels, you are not getting definitely the best passer of the ball, though. For the routes that Terry has and kind of excels at, I think Jaden Daniels' skill set can work quite well. So he might be his best shot to truly emerge as that elite player. I would say, to me, he doesn't have that upside of DJ Moore. I just think he is really good, amazing starter, but not an elite guy. And I hope he is going to prove me wrong and will earn that elite star badge, because he would deserve it. Like for the quarterbacks he had to endure, I would wish, and obviously like the whole Commanders and previous regime situation, the fact that he is even as good as he is just really great for him. Then we go Jahan Dotson. Bit of a down year last season, yet I would address that towards like 70-30 Sam Howell and Jahan Dotson. So not all of it was his fault. Mostly I would blame Sam Howell and his inconsistencies and not really best performance. Though Jahan had his problems with drops, with some of the separation sometimes. So he was not like by any means helping Sam very much. So, as your number 2 guy, you hope that he's gonna go more back towards the 2022 tape. Luke McCaffrey, we covered him. I do not expect much, though they might persuade themselves to play him. Then with the rest, Diami Brown, Olamide Zaccheaus. I'm not really high on these guys, though Diami Brown, I'm like much lower than like the general public. Again, he might suit well Jaden Daniels' like deep ball ability. So if there is one guy that has like just a solid backup, kind of great, and could emerge as good starter, Diami Brown could be that guy in this offense. But how likely is that? I kind of gave up on Diami Brown. I don't see that happening. If it should be, it could be with Jaden. Olamide Zaccheaus, really nothing special. I'm much lower on this wide receiver core than I would say, like from what I've heard other people talk about him. I think it's Terry, okay Jahan, and good luck. Hopefully, Diami, Olamide, and Luke can prove me wrong, and this is actually much better weaponry than I think it is in terms of wide receivers. Then tight end room is one of the worst in the league, yet I like it. That's a weird statement, right? Let's talk about it. So again, I feel like you are far away from competing for the division. So what I like to see is rooms that make sense to not be absolutely dreadful right now, to help develop your young QB and have a future plan. And I think that's exactly what it is. They've added Zach Ertz, who was with Cliff in Arizona, who was kind of having his best years, perhaps not still really good years for an NFL tight end there. He understands what Cliff's systems wants, and he is a good fit for that. Yet, hopefully, he is your starter for like 4 to 6 weeks before Ben Sinnott takes over, because they are kind of similar players. Less blockers, more pass catchers. When you see Zackett's blocking rates, they are really poor. So you kind of want not to throw Ben Sinnott out there day one, especially also not to throw Jaden Daniels, have to throw to Ben Sinnott. So give him Zach Ertz to kind of get the last bits of football out of him. Nothing against Zach Ertz. He had amazing career. I would not put it out of like possibilities if he is back with Commanders for next season in terms of coaching staff. Like I feel like that could definitely be what's going on for this year. Get the last juice of him and then pass the torch to Ben Sinnott. I feel like that's really nice way to conduct yourself given the situation that the Commanders are. And then you have John Bates. Like if Zach Ertz is injured and Ben Sinnott is bad, you have a guy that like can play. I'm not happy for him to start. He's much more like blocking specialist, but he can play. He can, perhaps you say, well, okay, so our tight ends are essentially there to help our running game, and that's pretty much it when you play with John Bates. Now let's move to offensive line. Their starting tackles should be Cornelius Lucas and Andrew Wiley. I mean, you can kind of see it from my face and from the grades. I am not super happy. So Cornelius Lucas, I mean, to me, is kind of like just tiny notch above like Larry Borom. I would not put it out of Washington that if Cornelius does not play well, that they would try to get Larry Borom from the Bears if they trust Ahmed G to be like rightful tackle backup. I mean, you hope, but he's probably the worst starting left tackle in the league. In terms of Andrew Wiley, we are getting, let's say 25th, 26th best right tackle. Good, pretty much no upside. When you don't have a guy waiting to replace him, you are okay starting him. You wish you had better, but yeah, it's just what it is. And there is definitely good utility for, Andrew Wileys of the world when, like, you cannot have premium players at every position. You need decent starters, and Andrew Wiley is that. So no, absolutely no problem. Again, if you could kind of switch and have a better player at left tackle, I would definitely recommend that. You don't. Then in terms of interior, so we start with the good, great, and the greatest O-line man of this Commanders, and it's not even close. It's Sam Cosmi. He can be, I think, an all-pro guard, in years to come. Really like his tape. You have one worry and one, but it's mixed with like good. The worry for me is like he is better guard than he is a tackle, but he has this versatility. And if either Cornelius Lucas or Andrew Wiley sucks, they might be persuaded to move Sam Cosmi out to the tackle. Which I would say, like, maybe it would make sense in terms of, it makes your line temporarily better, but it doesn't utilize Sam to his highest upside. So you hope that's not going to happen. Then you have Tyler Biadasz. You are not paying premium, you are paying good enough league center coming from Cowboys, if I'm not mistaken. Not overpaid, not unpaid. Again, similar type to Andrew Wiley. Just, you are getting an NFL starter. Like, that's his best of compliment I can give you. You are not getting anything special, but you are getting a player that you should not be worried about. Then one of the wildcards for the room is, I think, Nick Allegretti, because he comes from Chiefs, as you can see. He played in Super Bowl and he really did not play poorly. He actually really held his own when Joe Thuney was injured. But he was drafted, I think, in 7th round, so there is not much of body frame to be talking about. And he was never a full-time starter. When he got his opportunities, he was playing nice. What is he going to be as a full-time starter? Can his body handle it? Because it's different when you have to play like 4 games a year to play 17 games. He kind of didn't do it since college. Is a wild card. I definitely see him as having a potential to even be like a good starter, because he kind of played like decent to good player when he was out there, but when you don't have enough tape, you just cannot give him that, or just pedigree or anything. So flashes are there. We will see how that's going to end up. And then obviously Brandon Coleman, with whom they drafted this year. I didn't like the draft, as I already pointed out. To me, he's a development tackle prospect that he looks apart. He has physicals that are NFL worthy, but his technique is just abysmal. Like, his feet work is bad. Even his hands usage is not optimal. His using his core is. There's just a lot of things that he could work with because of how big he is at college level, but some that would absolutely get exploited and shattered in the pros. So he needs to be taught. If he can get towards the coaching, if he can improve those things, we would be talking about Cornelius Lucas' replacement and a guy that you are actually kind of happy to plug into this offensive line. But will it happen, given though that he played, I think, like 5 years of college football, and you did not see this evolution? Unlike Jaden Daniels, who also played a ton of football, like, you can see year in, year out, he works on his mistakes, he works on parts that he's not good at, With Brandon Coleman, it just doesn't feel that way. So we will see. But definitely, this is a room that doesn't have backups, like really backups to talk about. You hope they stay healthy. You kind of wish that you struck gold with Brandon Coleman, but definitely you are drafting a guy with number 2 pick overall and assigning him one of the worst lines with probably the worst starting left tackle. So good luck, Washington. And now we go to the defensive side of the ball, and that should be overseen by the head coach Dan Quinn. Also, for you new to this series, we are ranking him not as a head coach, but as like a defensive, let's say, coordinator, the guy that has premium worth on defense. So even though it says head coach here, and that Quinn obviously is a head coach, we are not ranking him as head coach, where he would be ranked much lower than B, but as a defensive mind. I think he is very good defensive mind, though bit overrated, perhaps, in my mind. And I love Dan Quinn in Seattle. I am a Seattle fan. I love Dan Quinn defense, but his defense in Atlanta was not pretty to watch. He was definitely lifted by Kyle Shanahan and what he's done with the offense. That's the reason why they were almost able to win a Super Bowl. And his defense in Dallas looked great. His pass defense, his run defense was something you don't really want to write home about. But he had really a lot of premium talent. Like, he had Micah Parsons. And I'm not taking credit away from him, because he is definitely an A to A plus linebacker coach, in terms of that group, and turning Micah from linebacker towards full-time edge. I would say that definitely has some credit, has to go to Dan Quinn. So, and again, B is very, very good grade. So nothing against Dan Quinn as a defense, but I would not put him out there with guys like Bill Belichick, obviously, Mike Tomlin, or really premium defensive coaches. I don't think he is that. Could he become that? For Washington's sake, I hope so. I would not bet on it. Let's put it that way. And what he has to work with in terms of defensive line, we are looking at pass rush and run defense. In terms of secondary, we are dividing it SAT, and that's safeties, and CBS, that's for cornerbacks. So let's take a look at defensive line. We start with the edge group, and that's a problem for this team straight off the bat. They paid big money to Dorrance Armstrong, kind of guy that Dan Quinn brings from Dallas, and I'm not a fan, because I think he got a bit overpaid, not necessarily hugely, but I think for what he's shown, he's being overpaid. And as a head coach, when you are coming from some team and you are kind of bringing some players, he definitely brought Tyler Biadasz, Dorrance Armstrong, I would say that one of your selling point is come work with me, we work together, we understand each other. That should be mutually towards discount, not towards overpay. So that's where I'm a bit angry that they overpaid for Dorrance Armstrong despite having that strong relationship with Dan Quinn. So I hope this is not I like the guy, let's just pay him whatever he wants, because that is really a highway to hell. Let's put it this way. For Dorrance Armstrong, he didn't have much chances to absolutely prove himself, obviously behind DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons. When he played, he looked apart. And you see his PFF grade, his amount of snaps, his pass rush grade, his run defense grade, the amount of sacks. 9 sacks were respectable for only 468 snaps and 23 stops. So really nice season. But now he's going to be a full-time starter, and he's their best edge piece. The hope is he's gonna have, this huge upside Dan Quinn knows what he's doing. He might overpaid him, but he really underpaid him because he's going to be exceptional. Well, first of all, here we rank these guys and their current ability, and I feel like his current ability is just a decent starter. Second of all, how much do I believe that he can emerge as like impactful starter or amazing starter? I don't say it cannot happen, but would I say it's likely? Not really. And then you have like Dante Fowler and Clelin Ferrell. One of them or they combined are your second starter for this age group. That's a problem. Like you can see it on their snaps, they should be used as number 3, number 4 guys, not number 2s. So really not much that you have here. Yeah, that's your edge room. Now let's go inside, and now the conversation should become much better. Does it though? Does it? John Newton, we talked about him, and I absolutely love his pick because I hope that the general manager of the Commanders, who I feel like, despite me not loving the draft, I feel like he actually done some really nice things with this lineup. I hope he understands that what he has done so far is like part 1 of the rebuild, and that you have to do another rebuild like within this one if you want to like reach the upside. And like part 2, I think, is getting rid of, for example, a guy like Jonathan Allen. I do predict him to be traded. I do predict him to be traded to the Bears for a third round pick. Again, I will talk about it more in a separate video. But Johnny Newton is kind of perfect guy to come and replace Jonathan Allen in the long run. And they are really high effort players in terms of pass rush, and kind of taking a snap or 2 off with their run defense. I mean, run defense, grade 37.9 for Jonathan Allen is abysmal. That really, like, look at this guy. Like, look at how big he is. This is unacceptable, man. This is his sacks. This is his stops. This is unacceptable. And like you can say, he saved his energy and he was kind of their only hope to get a pass rush. Okay, still, I feel like you should move from him, and not because he's a bad player. Like, look, I still think he's an impactful starter, but you are not winning anything with him, within his like age and frame and like time span, and you can still get a really good return for him. So I would expect them to start with Dan Payne, start with Jonathan Allen, kind of give this team really something to be excited on that D-line, and hopefully Dorrance Armstrong emerges as the guy that Dan Quinn sees in him. And then you start to incorporate Jonathan Newton, and probably, or should let go of Jonathan Allen, to change him for draft picks and perhaps other players, in order to go towards that step part of the rebuild where you are looking in like 3 years from now, 2 years from now, Jaden Daniels third year, fourth year, and you are really addressing that time window as where you are the strongest. Jozan is his third year, maybe Brandon Coleman develops into like a good offensive tackle, etc., etc. So like these 2 guys, I feel like are more like known. I would say the general public is higher on them than I am. Still, they are really good players, like good and impactful, but less than I would say people expect them to be, or at least from what I watch. We will see if when they have some edge pieces again next to them, if they will be better. But last year was not really something to remember for those 2 guys. And the rest of this defensive line, Fidarian Mattis and Javonte J. Baptist, whom they drafted, I mean, Mattis is kind of really deep on depth chart because of Johnny Newton, Allen, and Payne. So again, if you are letting one of these two guys go, I would say Allen is much more reasonable for you to let go. He is not dissimilar to, again, kind of Johnny Newton and Jonathan Allen in terms of he is a pass rusher that has some moves, but his run defense is abysmal. So you kind of have these three guys, like 90%, 70% of Jonathan Allen in the kind of backup room or depth room. Now the conversation starts to be more interesting in terms of linebackers, and this is definitely a group that if you are a Commanders fan, besides Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin, I would say you should be most excited about, because Dan Quinn and linebackers, I already said it, I feel like that's really a group that he can elevate. He has Bobby Wagner, after like 10 years from Legion of Boom and Seattle defense, so now he has Bobby Wagner back. Bobby is still balling out. I am super sad that he won't finish his career, or most likely, maybe he's gonna go for a third comeback towards Seattle, that he probably won't finish his career with us, but if I could choose anyone else to finish his career under Dan Quinn, yeah, that would definitely work. I believe you will take care of him, Dan Quinn. For Bobby, what he is, he's tenacious run defender. He kind of emerged like a blitz threat, and he cannot really cover that much. He just that's where his body limits kind of catches up on him. Still, I would say as an impactful starter, he's going to be absolute grown up in the room. He will bring, I would say, a really good connection with Dan Quinn. Really excited to see him play again. Though I would definitely prefer to be it in Seattle. Though I understand why they let him go. Frankie Lou, if there's a guy that has a chance to emerge as number one edge, to me it's Frankie Lou. He can, in my eyes, go and do the same transition as kind of Micah Parsons did. He has what it takes in terms of speed, in terms of moves, in terms of like tenacity. You can see his pass rush grade 90.1 last year. He's not going to be Micah in terms of like run defense, in terms of body frame, but can he be like 85% of Micah Parsons? I think so, and I'm really excited to see if Dan Quinn is able to get it out of him. So I would say in Bobby, you have a guy that's going to be there to run defend, maybe some blitzes. Frankie Lou, I would say in early downs, could play as the second edge. I would say that he is even better right now than those edge pieces that they have, or they can kind of scheme some blitzes from him. And Jarman Davis should be a really nice piece to kind of do a traditional linebacking. He might actually be a guy that, despite being the worst, might play the most snaps out of these, because he could definitely be a free down player. While Bobby, I would say you want on the first and second down. And with Frankie, he can play all three downs. I think you have a utility for him. But if he goes more towards that edge piece, you would want to save some of his energy. So I would not put it behind Dan Quinn if Jaman Davis is the most used linebacker in terms of snaps, while we would see absolute insanity from Frankie Lou and Bobby Wagner in terms of doing what they are really good at. So definitely a room that I'm super excited about, and cannot wait to watch Dan Quinn utilize these three guys. Then we go to the safety room, and the good thing you can say about these guys is there's a lot of promise. They've showed they can play, especially Percy Butler and Derek Forrest, kind of Washington guys. Jeremy Chin obviously coming from Carolina, to us like 1 year prove-it deal that he can be a guy, that he maybe was misutilized with the Panthers. There is a promise in this room. The floor is definitely low, like lower compared to pretty much all of the other safety rooms. But I'm really excited about this room. In other facts that, like in linebackers, I kind of see really good floor and some possibilities how to be magical. Here, I don't see very good floor, but I feel like they could be really well worked unit as soon as end of this year. Like if Derek Forrest and Percy Butler and even GMaty end up being good starters, in my eyes, I will not be surprised. I think it's all out there. It's just a matter of consistently proving it year after year. Kind of, give me a reason to move you up, and I think these guys will. So I cannot rule it out that it will be a problem, but I feel like they will not eventually. And then we go towards what I feel like problem is going to be, and that's the cornerback room. Emmanuel Forbes last year was abysmal. Where to start? Like he was misused. He is light as a feather, and he should not be defending AJ Brown and DK Metcalf. He just shouldn't. Ron Rivera, I'm sorry. Like I like you as a person, but that was ugly what you did to this young man. And they've invested highly in him. I think it was like 16 pick, something like that. And he was drafted like kind of specifically for the system that they won't be playing right now with Dan Quinn. More of a zone rather than man coverage. And he is not really good at pressure and man coverage because he's just small. Like he is very good instinctive, really speedy, but he just doesn't have body frame. What is going to happen with him? Because right now, the question is he even a starter for this team? I don't think by the depth chart he actually is. So I see three possibilities. They will try to play him in this new system. He will fail in this, and his trade stock plummets even lower. And you are watching first round bust that you can get 5th or 6th round at best, and most likely you will end up cutting him actually or releasing him. Second thing is they will try him, and he is actually going to bounce back and be kind of solid. So you are not getting definitely what you invested in, but you would get decent number 2 corner. I think that's within the realm of possibilities that he is that, like with the season end. And the third possibility, one that I would be doing if I was Washington, is trade him right now. Trade him towards the system that suits him much better. I will talk more about the trade video. Trade him now, because I think right now you could get third round, I think, for him. Maybe you could get second if you like back up, let's say 5th or 6th or 4th, maybe. I'm not sure, but I would say that's still there is still a market for him because of his draft pedigree and because you just have 1 year of bad tape that can be adjusted to really poor usage. So do I see some teams, won't mention them right now, looking at him, seeing what Washington saw last year when they drafted him, and like, okay, we are getting this guy with a huge discount compared to what Washington did him for. Let's go for it. And I think for Washington, I would say that's the best route to take as well. But it should have, if that was about to happen, it should have happened by now. And because it didn't, so I expect they will try, move on, and playing with him. And I do not expect that to end really well for either Washington or Emmanuel Forbes. So unfortunately, I do not see that much with him. I think decent starter here is just kind of still his draft pedigree. He didn't play like decent starter last year for sure. What you have there is Michael Davis, Benjamin St-Juste, and Mike Sanderstill. Michael Davis was really abysmal last season. He is on down trajectory. He's there with age. The good thing I think you can say about him is leader. You can see him having a captaincy with the Chargers, where there is a lot of really established player in terms of defense. So having a C there kind of means something. But he's most likely their number 1 corner outside at least. That's ugly. That's really ugly. And the worry is, as great and creative as you might be with linebackers, and even if like Dorrance Armstrong is actually better than I think, this secondary can be burnt. Benjamin St-Juste, I would be okay with him on the bench, but he's probably going to start as an outside corner next to Michael Davis. Yeah, and Mike Sam is still probably the best guy out of these three in terms of like actually quality, but he's going to be playing the, I would say, least valuable position in terms of slot, and I hope they won't push him to play outside, because that would be a really big misutilization of his skill set. But outside corners for the Washingtons, I mean, is it the worst unit kind of in the league as in terms of starters? I would not put it past me. That I really have very small amount of trust in outside ability of like older Michael Davis with some injury concerns, Emmanuel Forbes after last year in the system, and Benjamin St-Juste right now. So that's where the ugly thing kind of points their head out with this defense. So what is their floor, what is their upside, and what should be their plan for this season? I think you can call this season great if Jaden Daniels doesn't suffer injury, if you can see Cliff Kingsbury offense kind of suit him and finding that really nice use of a dual threat for Jaden Daniels. If he improves his like short to intermediate games, if he starts to throw better when he's on the move, or even starts to look to throw there, and if you get things back for players that you have, whether it's like long-term players or that you have actually for longer contracts, or perhaps for some of those guys that you've signed to one-year deals and they looking good and someone actually wants to have them for their, let's say, Super Bowl push or playoff push, and you can get something from that back. I would say that would be a successful season from a managerial standpoint. What is their floor? Man, it's like, I would say like 3 wins. I hate to be this negative, but if they are not able to generate a pass rush from the edge, which I think is definitely within reasonable realm of possibility, they just cannot. I think this secondary is going to be picked apart. Giants will have a better team than they had last year. So losing to them both games is definitely something that can happen, and you most likely would lose with Dallas and Eagles twice. So I'm not giving it past Washington to be 0-6 in the division. In the really bad scenarios. And those scenarios are kind of, likely. It's like, well, Jaden Daniels can get injured because of his style. So you turn out to Marcus Mariota. You have the worst starting left tackle in the league. You have probably the worst starting outside cornerback duo in the league. You don't have anything special in terms of pass rush. You also don't have anything special in terms of O-line. Your QB is really good runner, but passing the ball is a bit of a problem. So, not a bit of a problem. That's exaggerating, but it's not his strength, right? Not his strength. He has deficiencies. He's probably the worst starter in terms of passing, throwing the football, or being great at it. So 3 wins is definitely out there. I will not be shocked if that happens. Especially if you go into trade deadline and you are 1-6, 1-7, and you are let's again just run a thrift shop and push the guys out. Would it be the worst for their long term? No. In my opinion, no. The two bad things that it could suggest is one, Jaden Daniels can hurt. That's why you are so bad. And second, losing faith from the fans. So that's why I think it's crucial to learn Jaden Daniels how to slide, because if they are 1-7 and the defense completely sucks or like whatever, but Jaden Daniels like provides one or two really nice plays every week. Like that offense actually puts some points up. Even though if they end up like 3-14, I would say the fan base will be like, okay, like we knew we have really a lot of holes. You cannot fix that in one off season. At least we have our guy. If that happens, I think you are actually kind of okay with being 3-14. What's their upside? 3-3 in division, like beating Giants twice and kind of sneaking a win against one of the powerhouses, and adding, I would say, like 4 wins. That means, Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury is working together. You can generate pass rush. Their outside corners are not as dreadful as I think. Perhaps Emmanuel Forbes actually emerges as a guy that you drafted. Johnny Newton is there and he works his magic earlier than I would expect. And Cornelius Lucas is not absolutely bad for a left tackle. And some of the weapons that I kind of talk bad about, like Diamond Brown, are actually better than I think. So I would say that's the upside. Is there, besides Jaden Daniels, anything that you super look forward to with this team? Well, not really. That's where, drafting Jaden Daniels over someone like Drake May is, he should give you a better chance to not suck this season. Though in long term, I think he's worse. Especially with this O-line. I think he can handle this O-line better than what Drake May would year one. So that's your Commanders. I'm sorry to not end up on really high note. I feel like they're actually doing quite nice job, though I didn't really love that, but free agency was good. I do not hate the hires in terms of coaches. I think they kind of make sense for what you want to do. You want to build a team that has trust from the fan base and doesn't completely sucks. Though you can say like it's a similar to what they have in Bears, but Bears' ambition is we want to win Super Bowl with Caleb. So that's a different conversation in my opinion. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time, and we will be back with New England Patriots. Bye.